Before I forget.
Last one.
Right? It's kind of sad.
I know. I bet we'll find something down the road. Something. All right, Stephanie, and I'm just going to wait for the little "you are live" thing to pop up. I think we're here. All right, we are. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to yoga with the Virtue Center and the YMCA partnership. If you are joining us for the first time, we welcome you. My name is Lee, and we have just been doing some gentle stretching together for the past couple of weeks. And if you're a returning person, I just welcome you. It's just good to have a little family, a little community here of friends who are just kind of trying to work it out a little bit together, trying to just let it go a little bit. And so I just welcome you into a little seated space, wherever that is for you. We're going to start seated and warm up our bodies today, but then we're going to transition to a little bit of standing practice. So I know in the beginning of our practice, we're all kind of just getting settled and getting our technology and our bodies ready for our practice. And so wherever you are, just feel free to take your shoes and socks off, come to a comfortable seated posture, and that's whatever this is for you up front. So I'm just going to give you a moment to settle into your area. As we start to just come together today, just know that you're welcome. Just know that you are wanted here and that you are accepted here, and that it is a joy to be in this time with you today. I'm just sitting here in my comfortable seated position. My hands are just easy on either side. As we settle into our spaces, we're just going to sit straight, kind of gentle in the middle, gentle on the head and the neck. And we're going to just notice our breath. We're just going to notice that inhalation and that exhalation as we sit here. As we tune into how we're breathing, perhaps we make a note of the things that we see and hear around us, and just kind of know that they're there so that they can comfortably fade into the background. We just don't really notice them anymore. Continuing here in our breath, we're going to draw in through the nose, a more significant breath, a little deeper, and exhaling out of your mouth nice and slowly when you're ready. Continuing that breath cycle in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you are doing this, perhaps we notice what happens in the shoulders and the chest as we start to inhale. And we just let it go, dropping it a little bit with that exhalation. If you have some range of mobility in your neck and would like to drop your chin down to your chest, we can gently then roll over to the left side and stop and take a few deep breaths here. We can start to notice what might be going on here in the neck or the shoulder, maybe even the back. We're just noticing. Continuing here for another cycle of breath. Gently rolling face down to center and pausing here. And when ready, rolling over right, just drawing our head to a comfortable spot over towards your right side. Relaxing the shoulders away and finding that breath again. Maybe noticing that our belly is holding ourselves strong here. Body kind of remains in the center as head leans to the right. Gently rolling back to the center when you're ready. We can even take face to sky, gently drawing face up towards the ceiling, rolling the shoulders away from our ears, pulling on our belly here to support the work that's going on up top, and finding our breath here. Noticing any areas in our back or our shoulders that might feel like it's tensing up a little. And then using that exhale as a sigh. Training ourselves that when we exhale, we can release stress, we can release anxiety, we can release tension in our muscles. Head gently pulls back to the center and pauses. Drawing our knees together here in the center, we're just going to switch legs so that the other one is on top or in front. Then sweeping hands in front of us, we're going to go into a little forward fold here in our seated posture. So when you're ready, belly is in gently, and we're going to walk ourselves forward into a forward fold. So I'm just taking my hands up my space and then coming down just as far as feels comfortable for me. And then pausing, dropping head. And you can even drop down farther if you have the space. Our bottoms are going to still stay on the mat rather than leaning forward and kind of leaning into the elbows. Noticing the hips on the left or the right. Finding some breath, relaxing our shoulders, relaxing our head. 2 more rounds of breath as we pause here. Head comes forward, belly gently pulls in, walking hands back up to the center. And we're just going to switch our legs for the last time so that we can fold forward and get into that other hip. Hands come to the front again. And when you're ready, walking yourself down gently. Dropping head, ease into the shoulders, and find the stretch that your side is asking for. Using my slow, intentional inhale and equal exhale. Drawing head forward, pressing into hands, walking ourselves back up to the top. We're going to just release our feet up the mat or up your space. Pointing those toes a little, flexing the feet, pointing the toes a little, flexing or flattening those feet. Just noticing what's going on there in the ankles and in the feet. You can even create some rolls with your ankles. I'm kind of rolling my foot here. I'm rolling out to start, but do whatever works for you. And then a funky thing we do in yoga is we do everything the opposite way. So if you've rolled out, now we're going to create the opposite circle and roll our feet the other way. If you're like me, you have maybe more mobility one way or more graceful movement one way. And then we kind of have to work with intentionality on the other direction. And noticing if that is good. Over time, we just keep practicing this and we start to notice that, oh, you know, I could move the other way and that might open up some flexibility for me there. This is good strengthening exercises for the foot and the ankle. For any of you who might have something like plantar fasciitis, or if you're brave and you wear heels still, this is good for that too. All righty, our feet come to rest, and I'm going to press my chest forward. Shoulders are going to roll back and down, and I'm going to take hands back behind and just lean into my hands behind me. So I'm squeezing shoulder blades behind, pressing chest forward, and then I'm going to point these toes, and we're going to finish this out by bringing head up to sky. So head rolls back a little, legs are engaged, pointing our toes, pressing belly and chest forward, finding the stretch through our chest, through our throat, through our belly maybe, and finding some rounds of breath here. Gently release our feet. Head rolls forward nice and gently. And we're just going to walk our hands forward. And our final fold over here in our seated practice, we're just going to take our arms up and over our head, forward folding down the length of the legs, all the way as far down as you possibly can. Feel free to grab onto your feet or your legs, your ankles. And if you need a little bend in your knee, go for it. Find some breath here. We can turn our attention to those areas of maybe our hamstring, our lower back, or our bottom that feel a little tight. And we use that sigh, that exhale breath, making that mental note that we can start to let this go. As you remain here, using your breath as an invitation to kind of see if there's any more folds you can have here. We can breathe in and create more of a sigh and more of an inhale to kind of activate the breath, to kind of feed what the body needs right now. Or if you feel sore and this doesn't feel very good, feel free to come up a little bit and find the place where you can get a little stretch, but you're not hurting or tweaking anything. It is at this place, kind of like that border between comfort and discomfort, that we find our word for the day. And our word for this day is peace. So why do we even introduce peace when we're in a position that's asking a lot from us? I was thinking about you this morning as I was considering our practice. And I was remembering that I was once told that peace is a choice. And that peace is a decision we make for a certain kind of mindset and heart set. And that peace as a choice can come when we feel frustrated, when we feel like this world is asking a bit of us today or this year. And so when you're ready, we're going to gaze forward and we're going to take ourselves back up to the top, finding a shoulder roll up here at the top. Nice big breath in as we roll shoulders back and down. And through the rest of this practice, we're going to find places that we can choose the idea of peace. So we are going to just draw our legs in. Mine are coming to the side, and we're going to use this to just press ourselves all the way up to a standing position. So I'm going to come onto my feet and then press myself up, adjusting my screen so that we can do this together. All right. So we find a comfortable standing position. We call this mountain in our yoga practice. Mountain is Tadasana. Tadasana, mountain pose, has our feet just straight out of the hips here. We're not too close in, and we're not deliberately spread wide. So in Tadasana here, just letting your legs gently come out of the hip area. I'm going to turn to the side so you can kind of see what the form can look like. We roll the shoulders back and down in Tadasana and have the arms at our sides. I like to spread my fingers wide because that activates my hands and starts bringing blood flow into my fingers. I find a little bend in my knees rather than having my knees locked out. Then we initiate some rounds of breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you continue this breath cycle, perhaps you can consider drawing this belly, the lower belly, in just a little bit. Squeezing our back sides back here changes the foundation, giving us a little more stability because it helps us to turn on the lower half a little more. Mountain is a very active pose. We can also think about the word peace in mountain as we spread our toes wide and then place them back down on the mat. So we lift them up a little, spreading those toes and place them down on the mat. Grounding ourselves, choosing our center, and finding our center. Mountain is a really good place to start adding some different things. Let's inhale arms up to the sky fully, taking a nice deep breath in. My hands are just above me in the sky. And with our exhale, releasing those arms back down to mountain. Going through the checklist, legs are turned on, backside is turned on, and we're spreading that chest wide, rolling shoulders back and down, and belly is engaged. One more time, breathing up to extension, arms sweep up, inhaling all the way up to the top, and exhaling, releasing for the last time. Mountain can then take a fold. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see. Finding our peaceful mountain here in the center. We are grounded, we are focused, and we are choosing this. Inhaling arms all the way up to extension, full breath in. Hands come forward as we hinge from the hip, folding with an exhale all the way down, nice and slowly, down toward the mat. Once here, we place our hands somewhere on this mat, bend in the knee, and we find our breath. Turning on my belly, even though I'm bent over, lifting my head to gaze forward helps get the weight of my head out of the bottom. Then when you're ready, going back up the way we came down. Squeeze your bottom, pull in your belly, gaze forward as we begin to lift hands nice and straight, continuing a full inhalation breath all the way up, back up to extension. Exhaling arms down to our sides. Trying that once more. Inhaling arms all the way up to the sky, full breath in. Forward folding, hinging from the hip, exhaling. Go slowly. The effort increases when you go slow. Finishing out that breath down here at the bottom, relaxing the knees a little. And a ragdoll is a position in which we just take this fold and we sway it from side to side. So my hands creep a little to one side, maybe creeping to the other side. Feel free to bend your knees here, exploring what's going on in one hip, maybe what's going on in your other foot. There we go. As we sway, we notice that this is kind of our mountain, but it's a mountain that's kind of being released, that might even be humbled a little. In yoga, a humbling posture is one in which we bend over, we fold over, or we take our head down, kind of like in a reverence posture. Stopping my hands back in the center, leaning back into my heels, bottom turns on, lifting gaze forward, tummy engaged, lifting those arms all the way back up to the top. Nice full breath in as we did before. So inhaling all the way up to the top once more, and exhaling, releasing our arms down to our sides. We're going to sweep our arms back behind us. So in this posture, I'm going to keep my firm mountain pose. So we're going to add a little more effort and then talk to ourselves about that peace thing we talked about. So sweeping my arms back behind me, I'm going to bend my knees slightly, and I'm going to activate my hands. So I'm spreading my hands wide back behind me, and my thumbs are trying to track together, even though they can't touch, back behind. Shoulders are rolled back to kind of help with the effort. Gazing forward, and then we're going to come into a little squat. So you choose how high or low you would like to go. The lower we go, the more effort. Fingers continue to track together behind us. We try to create some relaxation in our shoulders. Bottom is engaged, belly is engaged, and we start that intentional breath. As we find our breath here, we notice how we feel. What is our head saying? And we recognize that, and then we can tell ourselves, we're going to be okay. I know what I'm doing. I can come out of this at any time, Or I can make the effort less intense by coming up or more intense by going down. So we respond to the voices that our minds say, and we choose peace in wherever we are. So for me, as I roll my shoulders back, my fingers are spread, I start to notice that my legs are tired or my triceps behind me are tired. And so that's when I start to use my breath in through my nose and out through my mouth, talking to myself and just saying, I'm noticing, I'm adapting, and just kind of going through that cycle, creating a sense of peace, even when our muscles and neurons are fiery. Releasing our hands to our sides, and then we're going to go back up to extension. So we're going to stand up straight, sweeping arms forward, full breath in, and releasing our arms down to our sides. A gentle torso twist sometimes feels good for us after we've done things like that. And we notice the feeling in our chest. We notice our heart rate. We notice our breath. Nice work, everyone. Mountain, here in our center that we have become familiar with today, can also be taken into a balanced posture to again teach us about stimulus and response in our bodies and our minds. So if you have a wall nearby, feel free to use it, or a chair nearby, feel free to use. Or if you'd like to try to balance on one leg or the other leg without using anything, that's okay too. So we're going to take right leg as our first balancing or standing leg. So we're going to firmly plant right foot on the ground and kind of lean into the right leg so that the right leg takes the majority of the mass of our body. Little bend in our knee on the right. You might be able to see me. I'm bending my leg on the left because my leg knows that we're going to do some balance work. So we set up our mountain here with the right foot firmly placed, rolling shoulders back and down. Glutes are engaged. My chest is open. Hands are at my side. Our belly is gently pulled in. Starting a balance with this right leg, feel free to place all the weight into the foot beneath you. Then, if you would like to just point your left toe back behind you, and you choose how far you would like to lift up left foot back behind. Hopefully this is easier for you than it is for me. Shoulders relax away from ears. We go through that checklist. Belly is strong. Our bottom is working. Our leg is turned on. And we are breathing. As you continue to breathe, connecting with that cycle, just checking in. How am I doing? Am I using my belly? How am I using my backside here? Do I need to release my foot for a little bit of a break? Or do I need to bring this leg up closer to my bottom and give myself more effort? And then I check in with my shoulders, checking in with my breath, choosing to bring myself from a stimulus back to a peaceful center. Finding another round of breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And whenever you're ready to release your left leg, go ahead and release left leg back down to the mat. If you need to roll your foot or an ankle, kind of whatever's going on for you today, feel free. Sometimes the bottom of our feet, all that plantar fascia will start to kick up when we do that. Give yourself a little roll that you might need to. Just find your breath. Our practice takes us from a position of comfort to a position of discomfort. And we're doing this as a gentle lesson in how we respond to stress. My family will tell you that when I'm stressed out, I get really snappy. And so my practice of yoga has to teach me that when those kind of markers start becoming apparent, just like in my yoga practice, I notice it. I say, well, yeah, I'm snappy because I'm hungry or tired or whatever. And then I make an adaptation in my schedule or in my refrigerator or whatever. All right, let's go to the other side. So this time, left leg is going to be our standing leg. And I'm just kind of gently placing my right foot to the mat beside me, rolling my shoulders back and down, getting back into the cycle we've been practicing. Glutes are turned on, slight bend in my knee beneath me, chest is forward, hands are out, and I'm pulling in my lower belly for my strong and firm center. Whenever you're ready, displacing the weight over this left foot. Then, when you're ready, choosing what you would like to do with this right. You can point your toe. You can draw it up a tiny bit. You can draw it up closer into your hamstring back here and kind of feel that into your glutes. Find something to gaze at that's not moving. In class, we'll say, don't look at yourself in the mirror. You'll fall down. And so you're just choosing what to do with this foot behind you. And then we continue that nice slow breath. Even if we feel shaky, even if we don't feel confident, we always have this breath. We can always reset. Making any changes if you need to release a little. It's still a lot of work with the foot on the ground. Or if you want to draw it in, the leg in even closer to your bottom area, your choice. Relaxing the shoulders, pulling in my belly, finding some good breath. And when you're ready, releasing right leg gently down to the mat and shaking it out or whatever you kind of have going on there in your leg or your foot. Sometimes I even feel it in our calf, so it might be your calf muscle too. All righty. So nice work, everyone. So far we've done some standing poses, and we have done our balance. And now we're going to take this into a lunge. So a lunge in our practice is kind of like the final progression that we're going to work on today. And we're going to begin with a right lunge. We're going to stay in a high lunge. And let me show you how we do that if you haven't done it before. Coming to the front of our mats, we found our mountain posture. This is kind of our general set ourselves up posture. And leaning our weight into the right side, we're gently going to draw left leg back. Both feet are facing forward. So you choose how open or kind of closed or shorter you would like your lunge. Some of us like to do a little extra work and we'll bring our foot back a tiny bit more. So in our lunge, let's talk about a couple things that are happening. The front knee is careful to remain close to the place over your heel here. So we don't want to go too far forward to hurt the knee. So just be careful there. There's just a bend in my knee and I'm sitting down into my hip. If you can see my foot behind me is also facing forward. And now I'm going to just sink into my thigh in the front so that I can come lower. You're going to start to feel that stretch to the back foot, perhaps, maybe up the calf, up through your leg. And this is our hip flexor right here. So it's a really big hip flexor opener too. Get those arms rolled down and away. Hands are turned on, just like we were doing in our mountain posture. This is right runner's lunge. Find your cycle of breath as I guide you through a few things to try in your lunge. As you continue your breathing, perhaps you can experiment with straightening front knee. So we straighten front knee, and that changes our balance a little bit. Pulling in our belly, relaxing our shoulders, finding our center. Sinking back down into that right lunge once more, pausing here. Now we can try squeezing both sides of our bottom. Sometimes in our lunges, we will only squeeze the right side, so we actively turn on the other side so that both glutes are activated. This helps steady us, creating a safer foundation. Then we can choose here whether we want to remain here at the center or if we want to sink a little bit lower into the heel behind or into the thigh up front. Pulling in my belly, finding my center. Shoulders back and down, chest is open. Pausing here for a round of breath. Nice work. All righty. Gently rising, and then you can lean forward and step forward with your left leg. So I'm leaning forward, taking a few steps to come back to mountain posture here at the top. Here in our mountain, let's inhale arms all the way up to the sky like we did before. Full breath in, on forward folding, exhaling, releasing down. Pausing here for a moment in your forward fold, just enjoying it. The glute isn't as stressed anymore. Maybe the calves or the feet can relax for a moment. If you like that little ragdoll sway, feel free. And we just notice our breath here. We notice if we feel anything different here than when we are in our lunge. Our practice teaches us all these little things, and we've been talking about mindfulness so much. And the reason why we do this too is because we get so busy, we don't really mind. We don't really notice. So we're just noticing. Pausing in the center, slight bend in the knees, turning on my back side, gazing forward, lifting hands forward and front to come all the way up to extension, full breath in, all the way up to the top. Exhaling, arms down to my sides. Beautiful. This time, left leg is going to start the lunge. So left leg is going to be planted firmly on the mat, and I'm going to start to walk right foot backward to a place where I feel safe and comfortable in my lunge. Then if you want to choose a little bit deeper, if you want more work, feel free. Careful with the knee, we check in here, making sure we're not going too far forward. Drawing my shoulders back and down and finding my center here. Both feet are facing forward. My hands are at my sides, fingers spread wide. Sinking into my back heel, kind of flattening out that foot. And then we go through that checklist. Shoulders, belly, bottom, and then our breath. Another few rounds of breath. And if you'd like to, we can now straighten front leg, creating a little bit different of a balance. Noticing the foot behind, and then we check in with shoulders, check in with belly, check in with glutes behind us. Everybody's working for us here. Maybe our feet are working a little differently with this leg straightened out. I feel like I use my toes a little more. All right, take one more round of breath. And then when you're ready, we're going to start bending that front leg again. You choose whether you'd like to remain high in your lunge or come a little lower, up to you. Rolling shoulders back and down. Activating both sides. Belly is pulled in. As we're here in our left lunge, perhaps we think about all the work that's being doing kind of in the front side of our body. And we draw the torso back and sit back into our hip and our leg behind us a little more. Kind of creating an awareness that the front part of my body is not the only place that can take the work. So I think about that back leg and that back foot. When I turn my bottom on, I'm trying to draw all my work into the center using both the back side and the front side. Find a few more rounds of breath here. Left lunge. Gently releasing this left leg a little straighter, and however you'd like to walk or draw yourself back up to mountain at the top, feel free. One more fold. Let's take mountain up to extension, all the way up to the top. Full breath. Exhaling, folding forward. Then from here, we're going to use this fold just to simply squat onto the backs of our feet or the backs of our legs. A few weeks ago, I think we did a little bit of crow. Crow is a nice kind of intermediary pose between a lot of standing and seated work. So feel free to have your hands on either side of you here in your crow and find your breath. We notice the work we've done in our bodies. What's been stirred up? What's been changed? We find our breath. We bring ourselves back into a peaceful state. In Sanskrit, a peaceful state is called a sattvic state. Sattva, S-A-T-T. B-A-H. There you go. Okay, and then from here, go ahead and just gently bring yourself onto your bottom to a seated posture on your mat. So we just kind of release back down into our seated posture. Bring you down with me. Leave left leg kind of tucked in. And if you'd like to extend the right out to the side, go for it. So I'm going to find my balance here in the center between my hip on the left and the right. And because we were working our feet a little, if you want to squeeze and release your toe or roll your ankle on the right, feel free. That's what mine's asking for. We can create some rotation with our torso here with this extension and this folded leg on this side. So go ahead and just explore. How far can I maybe walk these hands to the right and pause? And then find some breath, and maybe we explore walking ourselves over to the left. Sometimes people can get a little back release here. And then maybe once more going through that little rotation, kind of walking ourselves over as far as we can towards the right. And then drawing ourselves back over the bent leg to the left and pausing for a moment. And releasing to your center. Nice. So I like to sort of experiment with rocking back and forth here. If you need to bend your knee a little, that's absolutely fine. We're just noticing the work we did in our hips. Just noticing what's there. And just coming back to our center. And when you're ready to switch legs, we're just going to draw in the right one so that we can extend left. All right, then we try to find a balanced center here, whatever that is. We find this balanced center. Leg is extended left. Ooh, I can feel that. Okay, and we were just exploring on the other side. So let's gently walk our hands over to the right and just see what we've got here. If you feel anything or take a deeper stretch if needed. And then we're going to walk our hands the other way. Doing this at your own pace. Just continuing your rotation. Our spines really like rotation work. It releases a lot of that tension that we hold there, maybe sitting at our desks or when we're just emailing or Zooming a lot or driving a lot. Kind of places that we don't naturally feel like we're going to take a great full body stretch. All right, one more left and right whenever you're ready. And back to the center here. Okay, so we're going to draw both of our feet in. Find a little hip opener. Now, for some of us, this is a lot. So if this is too much, you can also have your legs out just a little bit. That's absolutely fine. You can just bring your hands to your calves and your ankles. If you draw your feet together, this is called a Konasana. This is our seated cobbler. If you don't know, many people across the world will literally do their work here using their feet as a little either pedestal or an extra set of hands. So cool. I'm wrapping my hands around my feet. And then you're going to see me pull back a little. So I'm creating a grip with my hands kind of gently around my feet. And then I'm going to relax my shoulders here. And I'm going to pull back. What you might be able to feel is a little pulling sensation here, upper bicep, shoulder area. I'm trying to release any tension through the arm and the shoulder by pulling back a little. Tummy is easy. Find some breath. And when you're ready, if there's any forward folding that you can take here, I realize that it's a little more constricted, but if you can come forward just a little bit, maybe even drop your head, maybe come between your legs if your legs are spread wider, just find some release here through the back, maybe the shoulders, maybe your neck area too. Give yourself some good deep breathing. Bringing our gaze gently forward, pulling ourselves back up to our seated posture here, and just gently releasing our legs to anything comfortable in front, whatever that is for you. If you have your legs crossed, or you have your legs kind of one in front of the other, a little noticing thing, can we lean back and place the other leg in front and then come to seated? For some of us, one hip will feel different than the other. And so naturally, you'll find that folks will take whatever is the path of least pain or least resistance and sit that way. So I guess mine is with the left leg forward. It doesn't hurt my right hip as much. After having kids, my right hip became a totally different human being. And so I actively avoid, stretching out that right side more. And so as you kind of journey on from our practice today, I encourage you to look at the things, whether you're sitting or standing, that you would normally, without thinking about it, kind of just place your body into, sitting at a dinner table, watching TV on your couch. And after a little while, make a switch. It might disturb your sense of peace for a second. But because, as you've so beautifully learned, because you actively disturb your peace in a good way, you can find a new sense of noticing and a new sense of normal, even once the circumstances have changed. So as we end our practice together today, if you'd like to sit here with your hands kind of stacked on top of one another, and then we just drop them into our lap. If you feel safe, it's comfortable for you, feel free to close your eyes. Just noticing just our regular pace of breath. Through our practice today, we've created a little awareness about what's going on in different sides of our bodies. We've learned a little bit about the bottom of our feet and how they're feeling this week. Perhaps we've noticed the times and the places when our shoulders creep up to our ears when we're stressed or not feeling peaceful and settled. Through our practice, we've also learned that we can just guide ourselves back into breath. As we conclude our practice today, I send you on your beautiful journey with your own breath, the universe's gift to you. It's always there for you when you need it, and especially when you don't feel peaceful. So as we conclude our practice together, we end in that same manner, drawing our hands out to our sides with our palms up in a gesture of receiving. And when you're ready to take that big, deep breath in all the way up to the top, finding some hands in prayer together above your head. Finish out that nice in-breath. Drawing prayer hands all the way down to rest in front of our chest as we bow our heads for the last time. You are a beautiful soul. You've given yourself the gift of breath, the gift of stretch. I encourage you to take the things that we've just used on our little path together, bring yourself to awareness, bring yourself back into your breath, and also just giving yourself a little bit of grace and peace as we learn to navigate some of the bumps that we encounter. May your practice always teach you something about yourself. And until I see you again, peace be with you, and namaste. Thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed our practice together. And until we see you again, I think we're going to sign off. All right. Well, bye from me, and I'll see you later.